All right, well, hello and welcome to the latest in our series of Career Talk webinars. I am very excited that we've got another excellent lineup of panelists to talk to you today about the various roles in service and hospitality. So a bit of housekeeping just to start. We have a Q&A section for you to ask your questions in. We will be looking at those at the end of the session, but please do feel free to put questions in there as we go. If you want to say hi to our lovely panelists, please do so in the chat. This session is being recorded, so if you do have to step away or you miss anything, you will be able to find it on our website and YouTube page afterwards. But that is it from me, so I'm going to hand over to Liam to get things going.
Thanks, Julia. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name's Liam Scandrett. I'm the UK Business Development Manager for Spirits at the WSET. So I manage all of our kind of spirits-focused partners, educators, approved program providers, and just deal with all the spirits-focused stuff. My background's hospitality, many years working bars in London and Australia, and then kind of worked with a variety of different drinks brands, working alongside hospitality on drinks development and lots of other kind of brand activations and things for the brands. Mags, your usual host of these career series webinars, is unavailable, so they've basically strung me in off the bench. And hopefully I'll do as good a job as he's been doing on this series. But yeah, today's session, or this evening's session, is here in the UK, is on service and hospitality, and I'm delighted to welcome three esteemed guests, all with a variety of hospitality experience. So I'd like to kind of pass over to them to give us their own introduction and tell us how they got into the hospitality industry and how they worked their way up to their current position. And I'd like to hear about any kind of highlights or maybe key decisions or key turning points that really kind of shaped the direction of your careers. So Sue, shall we start with you?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Sunaina, also known as Sue. I am one of the co-founders and also the group operations director for JKS Restaurants. Started in hospitality directly with JKS, really had no background in hospitality beforehand. We started with Trishna, our first restaurant, back in 2008. It's myself and my two older brothers. They're the J and the K, I'm the S. I joined the business in 2010, and I joined Trishna in a sort of generic management position, as figure out the business. And I was only 22 years old or something, 23 years old, figure out the business, understand it, help us manage the restaurant. But quite quickly sort of gravitated towards the bar and the beverage side of things, and sort of took up the position behind the bar to really oversees the busier side of the restaurant nutrition as well. So I use that as an excuse as to getting myself behind the bar and really experimenting and playing around there. And also that sort of led me on to the wine side of things too. And we had a sommelier at the time who very passionate, very knowledgeable, but I found myself picking up a lot of the sort of the less exciting parts, such as the cellar management, and things like that, whilst the sommelier was doing all the fun bits, the tastings and the deciding on what goes on the list. So I thought, hang on a minute, I feel like if I consolidate my wine knowledge by going through my various stages of WSET, I will, I'll be able to sort of take over that side of things as well. So I did so, went up to my advanced level quite quickly, and then took over the wine list, was interacting a lot more, particularly in the wine industry, with suppliers and producers, etc. And things kind of grew from there. And it wasn't until 2017 that I started my diploma. I did the 2016. I did the intense 1-year diploma, which was whoa, very, very intense, particularly alongside running a business. But I'm delighted to have done it and completed it. And it was, it's provided me with a huge amount of knowledge, and also a different perspective on the wine world and how to bring that into the on-trade, really, because I think once you do work within restaurants, it's very easy to be narrow-minded and only view the wine world as what happens in the on-trade and what happens within restaurants, as opposed to there is a whole world out there, the retail side of things and off trade, and some of the more perhaps commercial side of things, which I think are equally as important to understand as well. So that's I don't want to take up too much time on this part. So that's kind of a brief overview of how and where I am today.
Thanks, Sethi. We'll have lots more opportunity to draw on your wealth of experience and learn about your business and your career in hospitality as we talk for the next hour and a half or so. Tim, would you like to go next?
I think I would have done this enough now to realise that I was on mute. Hi everyone, my name's Tim. I am the co-founder of Hospo, co-founder of Avallen Spirits, and also co-founder of Lassou drinks. My journey started in Cornwall, which is where I'm from. So growing up in Cornwall, hospitality is really the only work. So during the summer, everyone falls into the industry at some point. So I started there, moved to New Zealand in 2006. Like Sue, fell in love with the bar. Started working in a cocktail bar, fell in love with making cocktails, became the 2009 Bartender of the Year over in New Zealand. And from there, just went on an adventure, ended up in India, working for Diageo as a brand ambassador, and was also a WSET trainer for the Diageo Bar Academy out in Asia. And my time at Diageo eventually ended up in the role of global brand ambassador for Bullet Whiskey, which is, I guess, one of those jobs that bartenders really aspire to. They've seen as these rock star jobs. You have the global ambassador flying around the world with the corporate credit card, and doing that for 4 years. Kind of doing 100 flights or more a year, being away from home about 250 days of the year, traveling the world. Really took its toll on me. I was this permanent jet lag. Eating in restaurants all the time, so my nutrition was terrible because I was eating home cooked food. The loneliness from always being away from home. So whilst it's a very social job, you're always trying to make these little micro friendships, and you really lose those deep, meaningful connections, which are the ones that we really need. And then exercise has been such an important part of my life, and anyone that knows me will know that I'm crazy for running and cycling. And that stopped as well. And that combined with drinking 5 or 6 nights a week, and the pressure of the job really, really got to me. And then in 2016, everything started to go south. And at the Athens Bar Show in November, went back to my hotel room and tried to commit suicide. And that was really the moment where everything changed for me in the industry, as you can imagine. And was coming through that experience. And starting to talk publicly about my struggles, both with my personal mental health and having been diagnosed with depression at the age of 16 the first time, combined with the way the industry is, this excessive culture that we have, this live fast, die young kind of attitude. And we all think we're rock and roll stars that will live forever. What I found when I started talking about this was that I got hundreds and hundreds of messages from people who started to tell me their stories of struggle, of burnout, of problems with their mental and physical health. And both friends, peers, complete strangers started writing to me. And that was really the seed that started Healthy Hospo. I realized that there were so many people struggling and I wasn't alone. And yet no one was talking about health and wellness within our industry. We would keep pushing each other to have more shots, to work more out, celebrating 90 hours a week, saying that anyone who works 60 hours is a part-timer. And I thought that there was an opportunity to begin the conversation around health and wellness in our industry and start to look after each other a little bit better. So that was the birth of Healthy Hospo. A couple of years after starting that, launched Avallen Spirits, which I'm co-founder of, and is our attempt to really address sustainability within the spirits industry. I've been campaigning for environmental issues my whole life, and yet looking at the production of spirits in particular, realizing that there's quite a large environmental impact from the farms and the orchards and the vineyards through to the distillation and the distribution. So launched a brand to really try and address that. and lead the industry forward in sustainability. And then in lockdown last year, launched Lassou Drinks, which is an e-commerce retailer that's specifically for independently owned drinks brands. So to try and create a platform that gives the smaller guys a bit of a leg up and an advantage, and when it comes to the e-commerce game. So that's me.
Thanks, Tim. I'm really happy to have you here. You're truly a pioneer in those areas that you've set up. Gav, as the second substitute called off the bench, I'd like to introduce yourself. I can say Gav is the best dressed man in London, by the way, as an introduction.
Hi. Thank you very much. Can you guys hear me okay? Because my internet is going a little bit unstable. Am I clear for everyone? Good. Okay. Yeah, my name's Gavin. I am the sales director for Emporia Brands, which is a spirits importer. We do some export, so the main job of that is to get our lovely brands onto as many shelves as possible, be it retail, wholesalers who'll sell to the bars and restaurants, making sure that the bars and restaurants want the product. So myself and the team, our job is to create demand by letting people know exactly how lovely all our spirits are. Work with a lot of other family businesses. I started getting a long time ago now, 24 years ago in hospitality. While studying, I joined Wetherspoons. A friend of mine, Alan, said, come and work here. I think I was working at Blockbuster Video at the time. And I was like, yeah, sure. I'll come over one day. And one day I just decided to do it. And I think apart from the hours suited my sleeping patterns and my lifestyle at the time, I would very easily stay up till 4 or 5 in the morning, but also struggle, especially my last few years at school and when I was at uni, in getting up early. And it was just habit of years and years and a bit of insomnia. My brain would be really switched on 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. So that really worked well for that. I did pubs for a few years, kind of figuring out what did I want to do. Looked at cocktail bartenders, went, that's cool. I think I'll do that. I will have phone numbers falling out of my pocket. I'm going to have the best time of my life. I got no phone numbers at all, but it did light a flame in me. I worked at a private members club called Adam Street, basically cleaning brass and making Virgin Marys for 6 months. Did some events work, then started at Amaya in 2005. So I worked there whilst it got its Michelin star, which was nothing to do with me because I wasn't cooking. But that was fantastic as well, just to start to see all these flavors coming in, start to really learn my classics. I learned a lot there from the guy who was the head bartender, and I ended up being joint head bartender with him. After that, moved to Corbin & King in 2006, which was quite a pivotal part of my life. I met my wife there, some lifelong friends, worked in an absolutely amazing kitchen. Probably by far the most talented kitchen that I've worked with. I worked with some legends of the business. That really showed me, showing how to start running a business, how to really look at stock takes and control and learning. That's when they paid very kindly for my WSET level 2 and 3 in wines, which I thankfully completed. And I started there as a bartender, so took in theory a step back, but was bar manager within, I think, a couple of years. And it was an amazing thing to have on my CV, amazing set of people, and really, really pivotal. And in meeting like some of them who are now my friends, but some of our clients there over the years who will stick with you. Did 4 years there, and then went to work at the Mandarin Oriental. Did the opening of Bar Balut as bar manager, which was another pretty pivotal moment. Incredible opening team, which over the course of the 2 or 3 years kind of moved on myself. After 2 years, I got the bright idea one day I was going to be a GM of a restaurant. So I then moved to be the opening GM of Duck and Waffle, which was a pretty big job. But I said I'd give it a go. So did that for a year, then did something a bit bigger after that, Shangri-La at the Shard. Opened their 2 restaurants, did quite a lot of work on the bar side, and the purchasing, which was, again, it was learning different things. But something, when I was at Corbin and King, I'd started to go to all these bar shows and started to meet all the brand ambassadors and sales reps. I didn't really know who was who or who did what, but it was like when I looked at the cocktail bartenders, I went, that's cool, I think I'll do that one day. And as it was more when I got to Barbados, I started to figure out who did what, how it all worked, which companies had which brands, which one owned them, and so on and so forth. So I think I'll do that one day. I got to the end of my time at Shangri-La and I thought, if I don't try now, I'll probably never do it. So applied for a few places. Emporia Brands was someone I'd known. James Rackham, the owner. I've now known him for about 15 or 16 years. So huge personality, very, very bright guy, still full of beans, and just lots of fun, very hardworking, and we all have to be very hardworking, which is in our nature. So I applied there to be England and Wales sales manager, which they took a chance on me. And 7 years later, hopefully it's paid off for both of us. So here I am. I've been sales director for, I think it's 4 years now. But I'm not massively concerned with the titles thing. It's just more, I really enjoy what I do. I really love the brands and the people I work with. So it's a hell of a lot of fun.
Thank you all, and a warm welcome to you all. I really want to start talking about the best things about the industry that we all love. It's given us a great deal, the hospitality industry. There's a lot of negative press sometimes about our industry, but we all know there's a lot of really, really positive things about the industry and the people that work within it. And we know that at the moment, in the UK at least, there's a huge shortfall in terms of staff, and there's a big drive happening to try and fill that gap. Hospitality Rising being a big kind of recruitment ad that's going to happen to bring people to the industry and trying to change the narrative around hospitality as an actual career option and choice for people. So I wanted to kind of throw it out to you really about what are the best things about working in hospitality. I mean, Sue, we'll go back to you, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as you mentioned, the sort of the crisis that we're currently facing when it comes to the staffing side of things, and I think it's more of this needs to happen. I feel the talking about what is so great about the hospitality industry, and I personally feel like it needs to start with everybody. Well, there being more realization that it is a viable career, and it's not just a gap fill, and it's not just a way to make some money on your gap year or whatever it is, and actually there is a huge amount of opportunity and potential by entering this industry. But for me, I think the best parts of it, and the reason why when I joined the restaurants, it was meant to be a temporary role to help my brothers out whilst I was finding a job post university. And it's also why after 3 days, I suppose all those applications went in the bin, is because for me it was that eureka moment of you feel like you found your calling in a way, because it's for me it had everything from running the business and understanding the business side of things, and the sort of everything from the commercial aspects to your day-to-day of the sort of softer skills as well, but also the people you meet and the interactions you have, both from a guest point of view, the conversations you can have with people who enter your restaurant, or the conversations you have with people at trade shows or staff, and everything. The people that you meet, you really have the opportunity to talk to so many different people that it's phenomenal. And there are not that many industries that you can do that, where you really interact with so many people from different backgrounds. So that's for me such an important part of it, the people side of it, because ultimately a lot of hospitality industries, particularly restaurants, are people businesses. They're the people who you interact with on a day-to-day can make or break an experience for you, really. So that for me, the people side of it is really important, and I spend a lot of my time as well on sort of talking to people, training people up on that hospitality element of it, which is often forgotten. and to be in a position, be it where you can yourself, you get educated yourself, so you can then subsequently pass that on. And again, that's on a day-to-day, be it with the guests, with the products you have, with the wines you're selling, with the cocktails you're selling, with what you're creating, but also training your staff up and everything else, and giving them tools to step up and level up to the next sort of stage of their careers as well. So it's really powerful, I think, what you can what you can pass on and how you can educate people on a day-to-day, with the knowledge that you can gain and things. And then at the end of the day, things like food and drink, everybody has interest in. Everybody wants to know about wine, everybody wants to be able to talk about these things, and it's a very social thing as well. And based on what a normal day-to-day is, that no 2 days are ever the same, and for me, I really like that. It does break up some of the monotony of what you can often get of with other industries, and some people like that, some people need a little bit more dynamism in it. So and I'm one of those people who kind of might have a couple of days a week where I'd be sitting in the office for 8, 9, 10 hours in the day. Then the next day you're just running around from restaurant to restaurant, and you're in service and things like that. But so I love that. I love the fact that it's so diverse, and there's so many different sort of aspects to it, and like I said, the fact that no 2 days are ever the same.
Thanks, Sue. I think we're having a little bit of connection issues and some with your sound, so I'm going to throw over to Gav a little bit. I was going to ask Sue as an additional question about some of the kind of, obviously an employer that offer a lot of training and support to their staff, and that's something that's not shared exclusively across the industry. There's not always that level of professional development within employment, within hospitality, it's fair to say. Was your experience of that good, Gav? I mean, to address my original question about the best things about hospitality, but maybe on that kind of training point, were you trained effectively throughout those hospitality roles that you had?
Not all of them. My first cocktail bar job, as I said, I was polishing brass for 6 months, and there was a daytime and a nighttime manager, and I worked with a daytime manager, and he said, anything you want to know, you have to ask me. I'm not going to teach you anything. And he came up to me one day and he said, what's the difference between white rum and gold rum? And I said, one's white sugar and one's brown sugar. It's the best I could think of. And he went, no, it's made like this, and this one's barrel aged. And I mean, he didn't know caramel color could be added to make it darker, but I went there and I went, well, yeah, it's not really the right way to teach people, is it? And definitely made it a mission from that day on that anyone that I ever worked for me would not have to learn like that. Absolutely not. I would say again, from Corbin and King, the training was magnificent. They have training managers, external trainers. Same with hotels. The training you get is phenomenal. So I've been put through WSET level 2 and 3 in wines by Corbin and King. Emporia Brands has put me through level 2 and 3 in spirits. We've had sales training at Emporia. So I've been, since 2006, I think I've been pretty lucky, or maybe not lucky. I've been in the right places where training is an absolute, and I've had to train people since probably 2007. I'm very passionate about training people. So that old, I always start training with, what do you know? I'm not here to judge you. I'm not your manager. And if I am, I shouldn't be judging you anyway, but kind of gauge the room and see what people know, and then take it from that. And also let them know that I don't know everything. You can always learn something, and it could be a waiter sat in the back that is from a region, and you're talking about a brand from that region. They will know more than you, potentially, and most likely. And I've had that in trainings where that's great, where that comes up. But yes, I've been in the right places to get a lot of training on a lot of different subjects.
What would be your elevator pitch for hospitality if you were trying to recruit people to? What are the best things about working in hospitality in your experience?
It depends. What do you want to do in your life? And I think hospitality can give you an avenue to almost anything. If you look, there are people, if you think being a celebrity is fantastic and the best thing in the world, you've got the celebrity chefs or restaurateurs like Mr. Sirius has now forged a career after working very hard in hospitality. He's working very hard in forging a TV career. So, you know, do you want to make a lot of money? Go and be a 5-star hotel GM. Are you career driven? Do you want to get a title? Do you want to be a director of something? Do you want to be an educator? Do you want to just chill, take it easy? You know, you can do all these things and everything in between by hospitality. So go and find who can get you where you want to go. And you probably won't know that when you're very young, but go and find somewhere that's going to train you up. And a lot of places know that they'll train you up so that you can leave and do what you want to do. Learn how to run a business, maybe learn how to start a brand. Maybe it can be many things. And hospitality has all those things in it. You know, we've got P&Ls, we've got progression training, we've got wine training, spirits training, people training, which how many businesses are going to teach you psychology of people or the psychology of people? There's not many businesses that encompass all those things. So you have to find, a lot of people speak to me about how do you get into this side of the business? You have to find what's going to be right for you, what you're passionate about, and then find kind of where you want to go, even if it's step by step. You might just say, I want to go and work as a brand ambassador or a salesperson for a brand. I want to go and run a restaurant. I want to run a bar. I want to own a bar. You can't start at the end. You have to find an avenue to do that. So try and take a bit of time. Everybody needs money. So sometimes you just need a job, but you know, find the right place for you. Even if they don't have a job, let them know that you want to work there.
I think it has to be step by step, doesn't it? As you say, you can't skip right to the end, and it is possible to plot a path that does kind of take individual milestones and kind of enable you to develop professionally and personally within the industry as much as anything else.
I think I know. Yeah, I noticed about 11 years ago that as I was getting a bit older, I was in my early 30s then, and it was just like people wanted it now. They're like, well, I've been working here for 3 months and I haven't been promoted. And, you know, to me, I was like, well, are you crazy? Like, you need a year, you need 2 years. And it was just, I think that people want things a bit quicker now. It's just the way things are. So I don't know how we facilitate that because experience does count for a bit. And I think one of the things we don't protect people enough with, and again, all businesses have needs, is putting people in a position they're not quite ready for yet.
Yeah.
And that's okay to do, having been in those positions myself, but it's having the support and kind of some sort of mentorship there to get them through it and say, look, this changes in 6 months, this changes in a year. So you will get there, and it shouldn't be easy to do a job like that straight away.
How classic is the story of, you know, independent bar doing really well. GM is asked to work 60-hour weeks and inevitably after 6 months to a year in the job burns out.
Yeah.
And falls by the wayside, and then head bartender or assistant is thrust into that position without any training or foresight or planning really, and it's just a cycle that I think, you know, needs to be broken. Yeah. Tim, obviously seeing the industry from the many angles that you have, what are the really positive things about hospitality first? Then we'll start to talk more about the challenges and how we look to address them moving forward.
Well, I think Sue and Gav have covered a lot of it. So without repetition, I'll try and pick a few other things. I guess, I mean, I've been in a very fortunate position, I think, in the industry that it has given me so much. For me, one of the big things is the opportunity to travel. You know, Sue covered the people, and that would be my first thing about what makes hospitality so wonderful. It are the people, especially that you never know who's going to walk in through the front door. It could be anyone. Yeah, and I've been fortunate enough to serve some really wonderful people and make some really good friends out of regulars that were coming to the bar. But I think the travel and the experiences that I've had within the industry have just been mind-blowing. You know, like experiences that I don't think you could have in many other industries. Certainly if you're an accountant, I can't imagine accountancy firms taking you on tours of spreadsheets and computer servers would be quite as exciting as going and visiting distilleries. So I think that's a big one for me. And you know, if that's something that's important to you, and you do really want to travel in this industry, particularly as a bartender, you really can make that happen. The brands spend a lot of time and a lot of money kind of wining and dining bartenders, taking them on brand trips, giving them those experiences, you know. And I've done some incredible stuff as part of this industry, from being thrown off a bridge with my feet touched to a bit of elastic trying to make a Cosmopolitan as part of the Cocktail World Cup, to traveling to 63 countries and experiencing all sorts of cultures. That is something that is pretty unique in our industry. I don't know many other industries that you could have that experience.
And to prove that point, Tim is speaking to us from St. Petersburg, Russia. So
Yes,
very live. So I wanted to go back to you, Sue, and what I was going to add before you had a bit of connection issues was regarding kind of the training opportunities within your company and how you support your staff. You're renowned as an employer that offers training and professional development to your staff. So you tell us a little bit about kind of the avenue for a new starter potentially through JKS Restaurants and what's available to them.
Yeah, sure. So we, the whole sort of learning and development aspect of what we do has been sort of really high on my priority list for a long time. But unfortunately, it took a lot longer than I wanted to sort of get it up and running. And it was one of those that I thought I'd be able to do alongside everything else that we were doing with the business, but not the case. So before we actually launched our learning and development program at the end of last year, I did the WSET educator course. So we started off by having a sort of drinks program, really, where I was teaching levels 2 and 3 in wine, and we had our own sort of bar academy, as it were, as well, that we put together. So depending upon your position and your level within each restaurant, you were sort of put through a suitable training program, really. And then at the end of last year, we launched the sort of JKS Learning and Development Program, which encompasses everything. So yes, it integrates the beverage side of things as well, but we focus on everything from your pretty standard classic service training to for managers how to have difficult conversation, to crisis management, what do you do if there's a terrorist attack, to it's a huge range of different modules that we sort of put together, and the sort of final pieces of which we're also wanting to develop as the sort of the head office function, which often gets forgotten as well. So what comes with running restaurants as well, of course, is the financial side, the HR side, the marketing side, and all of these things. So getting those modules built to make sure that we're offering a kind of holistic program. So anybody who does want to perhaps look at, okay, I've been in management for a while now, and I want to sort of move into something in the support functions, so the head office functions, as opposed to I feel like my calling is maybe more in HR, on the HR side of things. So to give people a taster of what else is out there. And I think it's really important to do that. I think Gavin touched upon it as well. It's really important that people are aware of what opportunities they have. And it's very easy sometimes that if you start in a restaurant as a barback to just think, okay, well, my next role would be a bartender, and then maybe I can get up to a head bartender and then a bar manager or whatever it is, and it's quite linear, as opposed to, no, there's this whole world of opportunity that I have. And not just from, okay, well, maybe I could sidestep to being a waiter and then go up, in that way. It is also the fact that there are so many positions, there are so many roles within hospitality that you could go down, and within our company, we've got, an HR department of about 8 or 9 people. We've got a marketing department of a lot more than that, finance of sort of, again, 8 or 9. We've got a design team. We've got, so there are all these different angles really that come from having a business our size that we're so fortunate to have. And when we are recruiting, we do make sure that we do throw all these vacancies out there to existing staff first, so they know and they understand, and if they want to find out more about what each role might involve, and do they need a bit of training before they can perhaps apply for a certain position, we're very happy and open to do that. And showing people career progression and showing them, okay, this is your pathway. So if you are starting as a bar back, but actually you want to jump over and move into a different role, this is what we can do and this is what we can offer for you to get there. And majority of it, we'd want it to be internal training, but if external training or courses are required, then of course we're happy to explore and look into those things as well.
And people have enjoyed that mobility and had that opportunity to move from a front of house service role into a back of house marketing or HR role, have they? Is it?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's a case of, somebody starting as, starting as a waiter and saying, actually, I'm quite interested in HR, moving into HR and then saying, no, actually, I want to go back. I miss that, that excitement of being on the floor sort of thing. But it's exposing people to it, and giving them that opportunity to experience what does the other side entail. And I think it also, often what happens is you have this divide between sort of restaurant staff and the head office staff of, the restaurant guys being like, oh, well, those guys are 9-to-5ers and they sit on the, they can wind up and go home by 5 o'clock sort of thing, whereas there's that appreciation that comes by, crossing over and spending time on each side.
Yeah.
So for them to realize, okay, there's a lot more to it from just sitting in the head office, and vice versa, by having people from the head office sit, working a couple of shifts in the restaurant, for them to understand that when they send an email at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you're not going to get a response immediately because people are going to be in service, and all of these little things which are often overlooked, it's again really important to have that cross-pollination and make sure that people know what's going on in every aspect of the business, so that you can have a view of where you feel you want to go, but also have an appreciation for what it takes to run a business, and to work in hospitality in all the different areas.
Great, thank you. Tim, what would you say are the kind of core skills a new starter within hospitality would need? Are there transferable skills from other areas that you think could apply well to hospitality?
I think it's people. You need to be a people person. I think that's the key, and it doesn't matter whether you're working front of house, you're a bartender, you're a chef, or even back of house. And having a love of people is really important. I always go back to one of my mentors, the late great Gary Regan, God rest his soul, who I remember one of our very first meetings, he sat down and said to me, Tim, the job of a bartender is not to make drinks. It's to make sure that everybody that walks into the bar leaves happier than when they arrived. So that job of a bartender is actually just to make people happy. So if you're not a people person and you don't enjoy kind of helping and going out of your way to create great experiences for people, then perhaps hospitality is not the industry for you. So I think that's a big one. And then there is the work ethic. This is not an easy industry to work in. We do work hard. It's quite a physical job, which I personally really enjoy. It would drive me nuts if I had to spend all kind of 8 hours a day sitting in a chair in an office bashing away at a computer. Because I've done it over the last 18 months during COVID, and it's been a struggle. I like the active side of it. I like the physical side. You're always on your feet. It can be physically draining at times, but I think it's much better for us than spending all day sitting in a chair. So I would say that those are two kind of core things: having that like good work ethic and enjoying work where you are active and busy and on your feet quite a lot, and then really being a people person. Because that's essentially the role of hospitality, is to give people great experiences. It's not to make food or drink. Those are just two tools that we use to make sure that everyone has a wonderful experience.
And in addition to that, there's clearly challenges there in terms of maintaining that enthusiasm of being a people person and being this great host, and constantly having that smile on your face and constantly having this great rapport with guests. But obviously that being slightly contradicted by the long hours and the hard work and the pain in the soles of your feet. So what are the kind of tricks to kind of marry that up? How can employers and employees kind of maintain that enthusiasm for the very best?
Well, it's if we look at it as an energy transfer, right? Every time that someone comes into your bar or your restaurant and you're interacting with them, you're giving a little bit of energy to them to try and improve their night. And you have a finite amount of energy in any given day. So you need to make sure that if you're an individual, you need to make sure that your energy is recharged and replenished when you come onto shift. And that comes down to making sure that you're getting a great night's sleep, which is the most important thing you can do. We ran a survey a couple of years ago and found that the industry is right up there with doctors, kind of surgeons and emergency work doctors as being the most sleep deprived industry in the world. Making sure you're eating well physically, just looking after your body, and spending as much time away from work doing non-industry things as possible. Remembering it's a job, not a lifestyle, I think is quite important. So making sure that you are, when you come to work, you are kind of refreshed, you're recovered. From an owner or a manager's point of view, it's treating your team, kind of thinking of yourself as a football manager. We always use that analogy. And it's like a season. You've got a squad of players, and if you play your best players week in, week out, very soon they will stop giving you the best performance because they become tired, worn out, exhausted. Maybe they're injured. So any good football manager will rotate their squad to make sure that their team is operating at peak performance. And it's the same in hospitality. You've got to make sure that your staff are well rested, well fed, recovered, mentally in a good space. So when they come to work, they're able to pass that energy on to their guests to create that great experience. And I think that's a vital thing to remember for any manager. And it's surprising how many people we work with Healthy Hospo, even like simple things like following the law, like not breaking the law when it comes to the amount of time that staff should be given between shifts. In the UK, it's 11 hours in between shifts, with a 24-hour break within every 7 days. And if you're working 14 days and a two-day break, and the number of people that are not even doing that, and your staff will begin to burn out. There's a severe drop of productivity in anyone that works over 45 hours. So if you're starting to push your staff to 60, 70 hours a week, you are not getting the best out of them. And it's not just a drop in productivity and performance after the 45 hours. It will be a drop in performance across all of the hours they work. And some really pioneering outlets and groups are starting to realize this. I know we've done a lot of work with Hawksmoor, who have some great procedures in place when it comes to kind of staff hours and looking after their staff. And I would love to see more of that in the industry. So for any young people who are on the call, I would say, this is a marathon, not a sprint. If you want to have a long, successful career, and it's an amazing industry to have a long and successful career in, looking after yourself and making sure that you're operating at peak performance as much as possible is a really great start to be successful in this career. It's not about how much you can drink or who's got the craziest hangover stories. It's about who performs day in, day out at work, who turns up and gives their best to both the job and also the customers that walk in through the door.
And from a manager's point of view, and Gav, I'll start with you on this one. How do you marry those kind of short-term pressures that you would have as a GM to, create the revenue that you're targeted for and have the kind of success that that's required of you, while also taking that long-term view about managing your squad, to use the analogy that Tim has, and kind of keeping everybody in a fit and proper place to actually kind of deliver those targets?
It's not easy. It wasn't easy. Definitely wasn't easy. I would try and put that on my shoulders and maybe my management team's shoulders more than anyone below that. And definitely did way too many hours and had a bit of burnout myself. There's only so many months you can do 90 hours a week, every week for, until your body gives up a little bit. So I think the rota is such an important tool with that, and not just understanding what happens Monday to Sunday, but what's happening with the next week's rota, what they've done on Friday, Saturday, Sunday in the business. I think that's really, really important. And it's something that I think I overlooked when I first started doing rotas. And someone came to me and went, look, I've done Sunday night and I'm doing Monday morning. You think, oh, well, that's another week done. Let's start with the new week, and we'll try and move everybody's shift patterns around. What I would try to do is have a system of a rota, and it's never perfect, but just to move people in that system so that a couple of people a week could get a weekend off, depending on the size of the team. Making sure holiday requests are in as early as possible. They're always flexible, things always change, but making sure everyone's got their holiday booked. Then you don't get 8 months into the year and go, oh, I haven't taken any holiday. So making sure that that's documented for yourself, not just on your like people system, whichever one you use, but and a spreadsheet for that, going, right, this person's has got 6 weeks of holiday, to take, and you can't have that with 6 months of the year left. So yeah, it's really it's not an easy task, and the bigger the team gets, and if the more short-staffed you get, the harder it becomes. And yet, like, it is a hard business to work in, physically, mentally, especially at the top end. You have to be really, really sharp mentally to be able to perform. It's not just about making revenue with some of these places; it's about guest expectations. Be it with a single site, or a brand like that has many restaurants within the city or the country, or international brands. People will very quickly let you know if they've visited hotel in Malaysia and the service is not as good. They'll let you know as quickly if it is or it's better, which is what you always want to hear. But yeah, that I think at that level, thinking about how do you keep your team sharp. Staff food is very important. It's something definitely the hotels that I worked in got right. Huge staff areas with things to do, video games and chill out places and TV on, where you're not thinking about work for however long your break is. So yeah, that's really important. And activities, I think, as Tim was saying, outside of hospitality and what we do, which we all love, otherwise we wouldn't do it, hopefully. We all love what we do, but having something that is different. The classic team building things of paintball, which usually goes wrong because you find out who everybody doesn't like because they all get shot. But other things like that, other team building exercises that are not hospitality focused, that are just away from it.
I think the food thing you mentioned is really important. That's a huge positive to working in hospitality. Some of the amazing food you get to try, both in the venues that you work and other places.
It also can be some really bad food from some some places that have fantastic food for the guests. You've got to. Your staff will be so much happier by a little increase in spend per head on team food.
Also making sure it's healthy, right? I mean, I think that's also so important. It's so easy, and I've seen this in our restaurants, is just to have tasty food, but after a couple of weeks, I mean, we have the staff themselves, particularly in front of house staff, saying, we want some vegetables, give us some vegetables, give us a salad, give us, it's really important that there is the nutritional aspect of it is there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Tim, as the fitness guru amongst the group, do you want to add anything there?
No, I agree with both Stu and Gavin there. Food is the fuel that we run, so sleep is our recovery process. So sleep is really important, so making sure that everyone's getting enough time between shifts to get that sleep. Because it's both our mental and physical recovery, and then the food is our fuel that keeps us going. I think Gav's exactly right to talk about the rota. I think the rota is such a powerful tool to help your staff or hinder them. It's those people that work a 9-to-5 job are extremely lucky in the fact that they know they can see, right, in 17 weeks time on a Wednesday, I know when I'm working. And yet in our industry, a lot of people don't even know when they're working next week. So you can't plan your life around that. You can't do it. You're almost a kind of a slave to whoever's writing the rota. So putting in as much consistency as possible, and there has to be a level of flexibility because our industry changes with the weather. And people calling in. There's all sorts of things that can change your rota, but building in as much consistency as possible so your staff know when they're going to be working. They can start to also build a sleep routine, because they've got that consistency. You're not doing open, open, close, close, open 1 week and then close, open the next week. So I think as much consistency as you can get in as possible. Doing some team exercises, particularly when it comes to fitness. I think there's some really fun stuff you could do around making sure that you're looking after your back. Almost every bartender and chef that I've ever met at some point in their career has chronic back pain.
Yeah. Good shoes is so critical.
Yeah, we've all been there. So great shoes. As a runner, I've discovered that Hoka, which is one of the running gangs shoe of choice at the moment, have started doing hospitality shoes because a bartender in Norway discovered Hokas and started wearing them because they have these like super cushion soles. So Hoka in Norway started doing some hospitality specific shoes. So I think great shoes are really vital. And then you can bring your team together before shift to do some small, some stretching exercises, maybe a bit of core strength, just to kind of prevent those back pains before they arise. Because it's that constant leaning forward, working on stations that are a certain height and don't work for everybody because we're all different heights. That you can build fun into that as well. There's lots of positives that you can do to offset to prevent the problems in the first place. You build a little bit of teamwork, you make work fun. I know a few places that do yoga before work, certain days of a week.
Yeah, I'd say, just sorry to jump in as well. Yeah, 100%, and something that we've got on. It's actually a very close friend of mine. She's a ballerina, and she does a lot of sort of as well wellness things as well. In terms of breathing exercises and stuff. And actually over COVID, it was actually really useful because we could on Zoom, in between service, and she would do this with both head office people as well as people who are on the floor, two very different sets of exercises that you could have. And that's for when you're in the middle of, you've got a double shift, or it's just your second or third double shift that week, what should you do in between? What can you do to sort of help you get through that? Posture work and things like that as well. And then at the same time, she also can help with movement on the floor, if that makes sense. So when you're a hostess or a waiter, or how you present yourself and how you walk, and these little things, these little nuances make so much difference when it comes to how you feel when you're on the floor, the confidence you have, but also like everybody said, just your comfort levels as well, and how you feel at the end of a double shift. Yes, of course you're going to be exhausted and everything else, but it's having that sort of positivity about it, and having being like, okay, not, oh God, I've got to come back and do it again tomorrow, but it's like, okay, I can do this, and I can get through it with the right and the positive attitude that comes with it. So I think 100% the movement side of it, the wellness side of it, giving everyone the tools to get through, because it is brutal, and it's it's antisocial hours. So sometimes how are you going to get to a gym really? A lot of the time, if you wanted to. So it's making sure that those tools are provided to everybody as well. And I think just sorry to backtrack a little bit back on the question, Liam, you asked Gavin about as a GM, how do you balance and make sure that you're hitting your targets as well as keeping in mind the wellness of the rest of your team. But I think something that we've learned, and also learned, so I'd say the hard way as well, is that it's so important to have the people running the day-to-day involved in setting those targets as well, to make sure that it is something that's realistic, and it's not something that they feel is just presented to them. And when there is perhaps a disconnect between the day-to-day running of the business and owners, and I'm saying this as because I'm 100% guilty of this myself as well, saying here you go, here's your budget, hit that, you know, go and smash £50,000 a week or whatever it is, you know. And it's like, okay, then, you know, as a GM to be like, okay, well, I've just got to do whatever it takes because I'm incentivized on that, and I do it at any expense.
Yeah.
You know?
I think there's a really interesting conversation to be had here around what targets should we be measuring. You know, rather than just focusing on the financial. If hospitality is the business of customer experience, why do so few businesses track the customer experience? You know, beyond just a TripAdvisor or Yelp reviews, how many restaurants and bars out there are actively surveying their customers whilst they're in the bar or the restaurant on their customer experience? And I think that if the industry was to be, you know, was to focus on this, because it is, you know, that's why people come back to our bars and restaurants, because they have a great time. No one ever came to your bar because you've got top of the range fridges or you make the best margin. They come for the experience and how you make them feel. So why are we not tracking how we make people feel? Because that is what any hospitality business lives and dies by. And I think if we were to track that, then this whole conversation about health and wellness would be really much more impactful.
The fact that people don't go to bars for the fridges or for the margin supports the idea that it's about people, right? And your people are your best resource and your most important resource, because people are coming back to bars to see those faces and experience those people. So if you look after the people, then that's surely going to return in other ways.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and if we just measured, you know, and it could be a very simple survey as people pay their bills, you know, a couple of questions like, is this your first time or have you been here before? How would you rate your experience on a scale of 1 to 5? And then a little space to write a note if you want. And just those three little things tracked in a bar or a restaurant would give you some really, really powerful data around customer experience.
It's definitely something for me as a GM where that was part of my job, was to touch every table and find out what's going on. Repeat, because everything came through a booking system, even walk-ins were tracked, so we knew if it was a repeat guest. So we wouldn't have to ask them if they'd been before, because we knew, unless they were a guest of somebody else and we didn't recognize who it was. But yeah, making sure that doesn't have to be a GM, but one of the management team, it could be a supervisor. It's a great way for a supervisor, etc., to learn, is to ask somebody, you know, how did we do tonight? If there's something gone catastrophically wrong, hopefully, you know, like, I don't know, steaks being dropped at the table or whatever it was, you know, wine being poured on the guest, or I don't know, beer had a massive frothy head on it. You should know that. But for me, it should be part of the management role, is understanding who's had, you know, putting notes onto, most people use reservation systems. I mean, volume venues won't, in which case I think that system of having a little check-in on the bill is really good. And I've seen it in a few chain places. You just get like a device and you kind of rate your experience. But yeah, I think for the more personal touch, it's good for somebody to know, hey, you know, did you have a great time? Yeah, it was okay. Is there anything we could have done better? And you know, a happy guest is hopefully a repeat guest.
Yeah, exactly. But I think like collecting that data and tracking it from a week to week.
Yeah,
and then you can see, you know, if your staff are working too much, is it in decline? Is it where you want it to be? But I guess the hotels will do it, and some of the bigger chains, because they realize the importance of it. But when you've got 70% of the industry employs 10 people or less, we don't see enough of that. I would say.
So on that, I want to look a bit towards the future, and with hospitality openings, certainly in the UK post-COVID, many are seeing this is an opportunity for a bit of a restart for the industry, an opportunity for things to change systemically for the long term. So, you know, what are the opportunities therein? What's set to change, do we think? What needs to change? What could we be excited about in that regard?
I would say a living wage. So instead of minimum wage being seen as a maximum wage, employers incentive, bringing in the living wage, we will see wages go up. We've already seen it because of the staffing crisis, and this should be a permanent move. I would love to see an end to 0 hours contracts as well. They are just horrific on all levels.
Yeah, but I think it's that's the two together, I think, is really interesting. And yes, we have seen we've seen sort of wages go up, but I do think there are a lot of people sort of trying to pull the wool a little bit as well by saying, okay, yeah, you can earn 15 quid an hour, great, as a supervisor, but you're only going to get 30 hours a week. So yeah, exactly that, because it's really, in a time like this where people will jump for an extra £1 an hour, or however, a lot more than that in a lot of cases as well. It's quite sneaky, I think, what is being done as well, and that 100% agree with you, that really needs to stop.
It does. And I think what we saw during lockdown is that people are willing to pay a little bit more for food, because when everything was shut and people were ordering through Uber Eats and Deliveroo and all these other services, they were still paying the same restaurant price, plus the delivery fee, plus the booking fee, plus whatever other fee it was to get cold food delivered to their apartment or their house. So they are willing to pay that a little bit more, I think. And restaurant prices are going to have to go up. And I think that people wouldn't mind that. And I think it could even be beneficial, people maybe go out a little bit less, cook at home a little bit more. That's going to be good for the nutrition and the health of the public. And if restaurants can pay their staff a little bit better, have a slightly better margin, because bar and restaurants have existed on razor thin margins for so long. It's why so many of them collapsed as soon as they went into lockdown without any support. I think we can build a much better industry going forward, where everyone is a little bit more secure. We have a little bit better safety net for everybody.
So as a new starter then for the hospitality industry, and I suspect many of the viewers that we have will be looking to move into the industry, or maybe just starting out or looking to advance themselves, there's things for them to be optimistic about despite some of the negative press. What do you think they need to do as individuals, to kind of set themselves apart? We're desperate for staff within hospitality in the UK, so there's loads and loads of jobs out there. What should individuals do to kind of look for those roles? How can they find the right role? What do they need to do to kind of set themselves apart, would you say, Sue?
I think so in the first instance, sort of finding the right role, I think it's really important that it's understood exactly the background of who it is that you're going to be working for. I think it's important to understand what you're going to be offered, and I think it's like one of the things I mentioned in the ins and outs of, okay, this is your hourly rate, or this is your annual salary, or whatever, but what is expected of me, and how are you going to expect me to work crazy 60, 70, 80 hours a week? And also not, and I think it's 100% okay for you to say, okay, but what can the company give to me? When it's often the case when you go into an interview, it's the other way around of, tell me about your experience, tell me about what you can bring to us, but ask the other way around as well and say, like, okay, but what can you give me? How can I better myself and develop my career with you? And actually that's one of the positives I think that will come out of this whole sort of staffing crisis, is that restaurateurs, companies, etc., are having to sort of, not only on the pay side of things, but also really having to sell themselves, which in the past was not the case. It was very much you'll be lucky to come and work for us sort of thing, and I think getting away from that and having to sell yourselves and having it more, when you're interviewing, having it as a conversation rather than having that really formal here's a list of questions and what can you do, what are you going to bring to us, and I'll think about sort of employing you sort of thing. It needs to be much more of a conversation. It is a two-way thing. It is much more of a partnership. As the employer, the onus is on you to make sure that you're not just employing people who are going to come in every day and leave at the end of the day and that's it, them done, but having them as part of your family, having them as part of of the growth of your business and everything else, and making sure that they feel that they are being looked after, you know, on all the things we talked about, from, you know, from a mental health side of things to, you know, the physical side of things, to make sure that they're not being overworked. You know, if they have any issues, not to feel like they can't come and talk to you, you know, but also from their development point of view as well. Not that they're going to come in as a waiter and 5 years later, or if we're lucky, or even a year later, be in the same position, feel like they've not received any training, feel like, you know, and then they're in the same place as they were a year ago, just burnt out because, you know, they've been caning it with crazy hours and haven't gotten much else. So, you know, I do really think it's important for when you are going for any job role or interview, don't be afraid to ask, you know, what is in it for me in the development? And if that's not taken well, then I don't think it's a company for you, you know. And there are plenty of places out there that do really value, you know, and Tim, you mentioned Hawksmoor, and I think their culture is absolutely phenomenal. And, you know, the way what they do and the way they look after their staff and the training is, it's really, for me, the industry leader in how they do that. And, you know, you know, us, for one, as JKS, we really look up to what they do. And I think a lot of other places are also looking at them and what others are doing as to how important it is to, but also how you can look after your staff and what you can offer.
Yeah, I think candidates should be emboldened to ask those questions, as you say, empowered to ask the right questions and take ownership of who their employers are, right? And select an employer that fits with their own morals and their own ethic, their own approach.
Mm-hmm.
I think giving people a mentor, you know, having a mentor for someone within the business who's kind of done their role and moved up, or moved out, or branched out, or gone to another part of the business, it's super important. I mean, mentors have been really important to me throughout my career.
There was a really interesting survey by Code Hospitality that found that 95% of people working in the industry wanted a mentor, and 93% of people in senior positions wanted to be a mentor. So there was some sort of like disconnect, because everyone was looking for a mentor and everyone wanted to be a mentor, but something was,
unless it's in the culture of the business, it can happen where, you know, someone takes you under their wing, but unless you've really got someone dedicated to doing that, it really, I think, it doesn't have to be forced, but it has to be within the ethos of the company. Just to go back actually to what you were talking about a little bit earlier, Tim, is that nobody tells you in school that hospitality is a viable and fulfilling career. Exactly. And that's something that really needs to change. And this is something I remember Smelio worked with 15 years ago, was saying, why don't we do that? And we still don't do that. And we still don't really have a hospitality school in this country. I think Switzerland has one, which is quite well known, and you see a lot of people coming into hotels from that, but not everyone works in a hotel. How do you go and learn to work in a pub? You have to go and do it on the job. You need hands-on experience in this. But if I want to learn about wine and spirits and sake and beer, I can go to WSET. There's no equivalent in hospitality for that. And that is something that we need to show. You know, I just watched a program on how we changed our Olympics fortunes from the 96 games in Atlanta and lottery funding. And John Major did something right. And he said, right, we're going to fund it. And, it bore fruit 4 years later. So you've got to grow your own talent.
Yeah.
So true.
Sorry.
I think exactly what you're saying, Gavin, about it not being a viable career. I mean, at least 10 years ago, it was just not even discussed at school or anything. I definitely see there is some sort of change happening, but far too slowly and not enough. There's still not enough presence. There's a little bit of presence coming forward. Like we've been asked a couple of times by a few schools, can you come in and do a careers talk? Universities now, like we've signed up and we're going to careers fairs and things like that, to encourage people and to talk to them about it. But I mean, it's not even on people's radar. If you
think people say, oh, you can go and be an estate agent, and I don't know if you've ever met a good one, but I know one or two, and most of them are useless. And I've met so many amazing, fantastic people in hospitality. But if you said to someone at school, you could be an estate agent, they go, oh, that sounds quite good. they're all working evenings and weekends.
Yeah.
They're based on kind of fulfilling people's needs and making money for their business and making money off of that. But ones that I found with, sorry, any estate agents out there, but I know a couple of good ones, and the good ones are great. But most of them I found to be not very good at their job, and that was kind of acceptable. Whereas I think something that's really blown my mind is I've got to spend time with quite a few bartenders post lockdown 3, whose bars were not open all the time, and they were out and about as I was on a few evenings. And just how like amazingly intelligent some of these guys and girls are. And you see them, I speak to a lot of bartenders, and they're creative, they're switched on, they're bright, but you're like, whoa, we need to get that message out there that this is a business for top people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope that one of the things that we saw in lockdown is when they did the surveys of what people missed the most, or what they were looking forward to the most when lockdown ended, after friends and family, the number one response was going out to hospitality. So lockdown has shown us just how important our industry is to a thriving society. And I really hope as we get through this crisis, that's reflected and respected, and people realize just how important hospitality is.
Well said.
Much more important than estate agents.
That's true. And I haven't met many good ones either, Gav. I'll back you up on that.
You could app them out, can you? You can just do it through an app. The estate agent.
We've only got a few minutes left. If anybody would like to ask any questions, please add them to the Q&A. But while we're waiting for those questions to come flooding in, I'd like to hear from all of you regarding just your ambitions for yourselves and for the industry as a whole, and for your own ventures over the course of the next few years, or however long you want to kind of look into the future. Really, what's next? Somebody jump in.
Okay then. I'll go. So for me, I've got 3 businesses. So with Healthy Hospo, it's really continuing this conversation around health and wellness in the industry. COVID's been really difficult for us because almost overnight, when things went into lockdown, we lost all of our customers. And because of the crisis that's going on at the moment, everyone's just focusing on trying to get back on their feet. Those customers still haven't come back. But we're still committed to kind of having that conversation around health and wellness and making sure it's on the table for people to discuss. With Avallen, my Calvados brand, it's very much leading the industry forward when it comes to sustainability. So, innovating on our labels. We're now climate positive, so proving that you can have delicious drinks whilst not giving the planet a hangover is really, really key for us as well.
I'm a proud shareholder of Avallen Spirits.
Good man.
So yeah, from our side as JKS, we were obviously this time last year didn't know if how many of our businesses would survive, but also if we could ever sort of continue opening and creating the concepts and the experiences that we wanted to create. But we're very, very lucky that we've been presented opportunities that we might not have otherwise considered or had over the last sort of 16 months, which is great. So the business is going in all kinds of different directions, which we never would have really considered in the past. But yes, 100% everything that we've talked about, everything that is highlighted to us in the last 16 months, where our downfalls were as a business and as an industry, making ourselves more robust, because we realized overnight that you can go from 100% to 0 very quickly overnight, as what happened last March, and so making ourselves a better business out of it is what we worked on over the last 16 months, and to continue to do that really. For us as well, it's focusing very much on the whole sort of hospitality side of school and training and offering it to people and offering it as something that is a viable career option, and getting more presence on the hospitality side. Gav mentioned the sort of the hospitality school side of things, like, yes, all of these things need to happen. And, I think there are enough people out there that want to do it. So, we need to do it. From a personal side as well, we set JKS up as an APP for WSET. So, we're continuing to offer so far just wine courses, but we've got we've put one of our bar, I suppose, but she's our learning and development manager from the bar side. She's gone through the spirit side of it, so being able to offer it for all, the whole beverage sort of function as well would be great. So really just building upon what we can offer our staff, and sort of being, I suppose, an employer of choice, really.
Great stuff. Shout out to Maya, your spirits educator.
Yeah.
And Gav?
Just keep having fun with the brands that we've got, and whichever will come. Many brands, including Calvados. We've got Père Magloire, which is a wonderful, wonderful historic brand in its 200th year. Daddy Rack, our new Tennessee whiskey, Chairman's Reserve, Clermont Rums, Boudier Liqueurs, Rancancan. There's many others we could go on. Lovia Armagnac. So yeah, just keep. I suppose it's about. I kind of unofficially mentor people who want to get into the business and who are in the business, and that definitely ticks the box for me. So continuing to do that in whatever capacity I do that, and mentoring people that I work with. Very passionate about training and being trained. So just continually learning more, and having a lot of fun working with these brands. Looking forward to traveling and visiting the distilleries all over again. And yeah, that's kind of me. I'm very, again, am I fortunate? I don't know. I'm in the right place, definitely, with Emporia brands. So
you're always smiling, Gab, so you must be fortunate.
There we go.
Right, I haven't seen any questions come into the Q&A. I don't know about you, Julia, whether you've got any questions that have come through to you, but if there's no questions from the audience.
One's just popped in, if you want to
okay,
wrap up with that.
Oh, lovely. Thanks, Lucy. So the best moment working behind a bar or on the floor from all of you, please. That'd be lovely, nice, wonderful, warm way to finish us off.
Just so many of them, I think. Just every time someone comes into the bar and you make them a drink, and they really love it and they smile, I think it's a fantastic experience. Obviously, there have been some highlights. Making drinks for Michelle and Barack Obama when I lived in India was quite a highlight.
I think this being able to create experiences that people genuinely are blown away by as well, I think is to see, as Tim, as you mentioned about having people leave in a better mood than they were when they walked in, and really making an evening and switch, and creating a lasting memory as well with people is great. So that you get, and that buzz that you get out of having that on a day-to-day and interacting with people and looking after them is phenomenal. And then I guess for me, not quite as cool as Michelle and Barack Obama, but sitting in Anthony Hopkins' chair after he got off and left from Trish. Now I think that was early on as well. That was sort of 2010 for me, so that was pretty cool.
That's very cool.
Gab, you must have had some
big fan
in your time as well.
A couple, high five, and my man from Morgan Freeman. Martinis for James Bond, Madonna. A couple here and there. Patrick Stewart was a cool one. Dropping names. Yeah. Well, no, I knew him from Family Guy, which is actually what I discussed with him, and he said he enjoyed doing American Dad more than anything else in his career. So that was quite cool. Yeah, got to meet quite a few. But then, like, something that just, as you're asking the question, I remember at Duck and Waffle, and everyone wanted to see the view, as they did in the Shard. It's a very view-orientated place. And I had this woman, I think she was like her 90th birthday, like family party, and I wheeled around the restaurant and like showed her all the sights, and she was telling me what, you know, how she'd done this as a kid in London over there and this. So that was a lot of fun. And it, you know, it's not just about like all the cool people you serve, but as you say, it's about making memories for someone, and, you know, hopefully making some friends along the way.
Thanks, all of you. It's been a really enlightening and informative chat. So thanks for your time this evening. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you all at the time, hopefully over a delicious drink in a real bar.
Yeah.
That's so soon.
Yeah,
and thank you, Liam, for hosting.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Thanks to Liam. This has been really interesting to listen to and hear about all of your experiences. And I particularly enjoyed all that name dropping at the end. That's a nice moment to finish on. Nice little positive message there. So we will wrap up here and end the call. So yeah, just once again, thanks very much, and catch you soon. Cheers.
Thank you
Bye.
all.